1 year. 1 year and 9 months since I chose to start making some of the biggest choices I've made in my life. By that, I mean the things I myself actively chose to do, not the things that have been sprung up on me by life, or the actions and expectations of others. There's a difference between the choices we make on our own versus the choices we've had to make, between choosing something out of necessity versus the things we actively choose to do independently when we don't necessarily have to, the things we go out of our way to pursue. And as the new year opened, I came to reflect on some of the best choices I've made that have changed my life. And I think that one phrase, one idea, sums up all the changes I've made. Choosing to try. Choosing to try to be more grateful. To be more thankful of what's present instead of wishing for what wasn't. To find value in what's given instead of dwelling on what's unfair. Throughout my life, I built this pattern of having a bias for the negative, dwelling on the things that were bad, that went wrong, or could likely go wrong. I was miserable inside my head, despite the arguably equal degree of good things in my life back then. I didn't mentally even out the positives with the negatives that I kept on highlighting in my head. And looking around me, I saw the same miserable pattern in others, and I realized that I had a choice to make. So I made one, to try and be more grateful. To be honest, it was really only then that I realized gratefulness isn't some corny self-help Jedi mind trick to make you think that life is better than it is. What it does mean to me is focusing on the positives just as much as you do the negatives, processing and accepting both the highs and the lows equally. And life has its awful moments, but it comes with wins too. And whenever those wins come, whether it be as big as having that thing you've always dreamt of, or just as simple as having a smooth, safe drive without that much traffic, I try to count them and be thankful for them. Because if anything, I sure as hell would dwell on losing something important or having awful traffic. So, I try to remember to even it out. Me choosing to try to be more grateful resulted in my mental baseline to gradually become more positive. The thing is, I didn't really intend for or expect that to happen, but it did. And it led me to going on this quest to make myself and my life in general happier. It led me to choosing to try loosening up, to allow myself to not be boxed in by the ideas of having a certain image of myself, being more open about the sides of me, the way that I express myself, without being so focused on being on brand with how people see me, and just choosing to fully and openly be myself, doing and saying things that feel right to me even if they don't match with how I think people see me, and an extension, choosing to be friendlier, or at least choosing to try, to give others a chance. Instead of immediately letting my nature of being intimidating wall them off. Even just making an attempt at creating a side of me that's a little nicer, a little friendlier, a little more approachable, extending out my hand when someone offers theirs, or even being the first to offer mine. These choices are in their own right risks, because you don't know what'll happen next. And if it fails, you're likely the one to take the hit. And so, in this way, and in many, many other ways, my next change was choosing to try to take more risks. I have a lot of anxiety. Sometimes responding to harmless messages is even a hard thing for me to bring myself to do. And I remember a time when I wasn't that way, when I had such a huge appetite for risk-taking, for just shooting my shot and seeing what happens. I caught myself missing that side of me. So I tried to get him back. And for the most part, it's been working. Still a work in progress, but being able to have that voice in my head call out my hesitation to say yes to trying something that interests me just because it makes me slightly uncomfortable has changed my life in the short amount of time I've been trying. I now have so many memories I never would have had, gone to places I never would have been, with people I never would have met, because I tried to push myself to take those risks. And unlike many times in the past, now I don't have to sit and wonder, what if I had just tried giving that one thing a shot? I've been able to keep track of all of these things in my life, these changes, these major and minor triumphs from my life day to day, by making the choice to try out journaling. Honestly, a lot of these choices I thought to be really corny, especially this one. But being able to see the things I want to achieve, or that I've been able to achieve, or the big and little things that went right throughout my day, all written down, all documented, kept me more accountable, conscious, and grateful for all of them. And just that awareness alone made such a difference in the way I saw my life from day to day. Time flies by so quickly, and so does our memory of it. This is one of the ways I've been able to slow down and take a look at everything I have. And on that note, choosing to try to document my life more with the short clips and photos that I get from different moments in my life. They matter so much to me. They are pieces of my memory, glimpses and vignettes of a moment I once lived. And I realized how little I got to document my life over the past 3 years because of how focused I was on making content. I ended up not actually capturing the reality of my life for the sake of making stuff that would get views or likes. And I ended up wishing I had more clips of the mundane, or just clips at all, because they open a part of my memory that nothing else can. And so it goes without saying that that single choice to preserve more memories has been one of the best things I've done for myself. Being able to relive those moments and seeing everything surrounding that memory, even past the photos or clips, has meant so much to me. It's helped me see and be more grateful of what I've had in my life, what stayed in it, and just how far I've come. And I think that out of all the milestones I've achieved throughout my life, it's only been recently that I've learned the value of choosing to treat myself sometimes. To try to pat myself on the back for the things I've done that have worked out, or that I've even just tried. Just trying to do something for myself as my own reminder to take a break and enjoy my life. Instead of always being so focused on working or achieving the next big thing or saving up as much money as possible all the time without actually getting to enjoy a cent. Throughout this past year, those few occasions of being able to take a step back and tell myself, hey, treat yourself this time, has made such an impact on my ability to enjoy life, both on my own and with others. Looking back at the past year specifically, asking myself not what the best choice I made was, but what my favorite choice that I made was. I realized that in this past year, my favorite choice was choosing to try the piano. Something I never thought I'd even be able to do, or even try to do. As much as it doesn't seem like it, at that time, it felt like a risk for me. A risk to fail, to know and feel and be constantly reminded that I'm not good at something. That I don't know jack about the piano, that I'm not naturally inclined at playing it. It's not a feeling I like thinking of, and it's not a feeling that I like feeling in general. But one day, I just went for it and tried. And it was one of the single best decisions I had ever made. Nothing's been more emotionally cathartic for me than playing this instrument. It's been my emotional companion from being happy, being in love, to the rough emotional episodes of sorrow and anger, and finding a calming rest in those moments. Nothing, not even the instruments that I've already known how to play, has done it more for me than this. I don't think that any of these things, any of these choices, would have lasted long enough to make an impact if I hadn't made the effort to try to work through my perfectionism. I don't think I would have been able to be grateful for what was there instead of thinking of what could have been, or being able to loosen up or pursue my goals or try the piano, had I not chosen to allow myself to fail and be at peace when not everything's 100%, to accept everything as they are and not as they could have been. And in that way, choose to be more forgiving of myself, to stop myself from dwelling and beating myself up for the one thing that went wrong out of the dozen that worked out. Understanding my own limitations and inevitable shortcomings led me to be more forgiving of others too. Being able to be more grateful, combined with being able to be more forgiving and accepting of the imperfections of life, has helped me even out the negative mindset that has always been lurking in my heart and mind for the majority of my life. Regardless of how many years pass, regardless of how many choices and changes I make, regardless of how much I succeed, I know that none of my developments will ever be perfect. None of my choices, none of my risks will always work out 100% of the time. I won't always be grateful and happy for what I've done. It's all in a constant state of trial and error. All works in progress. And as unfinished as my journey is, I'm grateful that I've made these choices and that they've kept on progressing, that they've kept me progressing. And with this new year ahead, it's all up to me to take care of what I've chosen, and it's all up to me to be thoughtful of what I choose. Here's to a cautiously, mildly optimistic new year. Cheers.